Alright, so this is just a quick Google SketchUp model that I've created to illustrate some of the information that needs to be recorded in a solar audit when that project needs to be reviewed by a professional engineer. So, as you can see, we've got a couple of lovely solar arrays here that are going to be going on this roof, and I just wanted to illustrate that before moving them out of the way. And those solar arrays are going to be applying their loads to all of the rafters in the structure, at least those which are mounted to. And those rafters are going to experience both the gravity, the weight of the array, as well as when the wind blows, it's going to sometimes press the panels down and sometimes pull it up. So it's going to have some fluctuating loads in there. But as far as the information that needs to be recorded during the audit, I try to make a relatively easy mnemonic to remember things, and it's basically you want to always record the 3 S's, which are the size, the spacing, and the span for every structural element until the load makes it to the wall. So that can be a lot to digest in one sentence. So that's kind of why I've made this video, to illustrate what I mean by that. So for the example of the rafter, that's one everybody's relatively familiar with. You want to record the size, which is in this case a 2x4, the spacing, which is 24 inches on center in this example, and the spans. So you've got the eave span here, which is just about 1'9", and then this span here is just about 5'1". There's another span here that isn't dimensioned. However, that's obviously not the only structural element that's receiving the load. This is a purlin type attic, which you see pretty commonly, and I've drawn in a 2x4 purlin here, and it's spanned, it's spanned 11 feet almost. And since this is a 2x4, it's very likely to be overspanned. This purlin is likely something that needs to be upgraded. And so, again, record the size, the spacing, and the span because the load hasn't yet made it into the wall. This structure on this side has some pretty big problems because basically all of the weight from the array is going to get collected by this purlin and then put down through these struts into the ceiling joists. Now, I didn't draw it in, but underneath these ceiling joists, you're either going to have drywall or plaster, usually. And the drywall and the plaster would be at a really high risk of cracking when this ceiling joist right here started bending quite a bit more than the ones next to it because it had received all that extra load. So the ceiling joist is also, we haven't made it to the wall yet with our load, so you want to record the size, 2x4 in this case. The spacing, I put these ones at 16 inches on center, and the span. Now the span is why we'll frequently ask you for the dimension between the exterior wall and the next interior wall, because that dimension will define the span of these ceiling joists. And when these ceiling joists are getting all the extra load from the strut, it becomes very important. This structure has a beam in it, but in this case, I don't believe the beam is affected. Well, actually it is. You see the load's going to come through this here ceiling joist and make it to the beam just a little bit before that beam gets to the wall here. So the beam is also something you'd want to record in that case. The size, the spacing, and the span. Obviously beams don't usually have spacing, but they do have the distance from the exterior wall, which is the important thing for you to be recording for a beam. So the other side of the structure is a little bit better built because these struts land directly on the wall. So if this purlin wasn't here, in fact, that purlin is not there, this is the simpler case where all you need to record are the size of the spacing and the span of the rafter and the purlin. And also you'll note that these purlins because my rafters are 24 on center, and you can see this is 2 feet here, 2 feet here, this purlin is spanned 4 feet. And 4 feet on a 2x4 purlin is usually just fine. Since these struts are landing on the wall, we don't really need to worry at all about the ceiling joists. These ceiling joists are never going to feel the weight of our array. The only thing that we need to worry about on this side of the structure is this rafter, which that seems like it's getting to be something of a long span, but actually that might be fine. I'm not entirely sure of how long that distance is. So in summary, what you want to record is the size, the spacing, and the span for all members that feel the load until you get to the wall. So that load's going to travel down through the rafter into the purlin, through the purlin into the strut, through the ceiling joist, into the beam, into the beam, into the wall. And so this is really a worst case scenario, but in this scenario, that's the information that you should be recording when you're out on field, is that information for each of those members. So thanks for watching.